passing by one day at a time, walking on through this crazy life. I just thought that I would let you come see a piece of this world according to me.
In a wide variety of situations, do you ever wonder, is it just me? I have a sense that I'm not the only one who has those moments, feeling like her opinions or ideas are something so totally out there. Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Farrell. This show will not only focus on the good, but also highlight the many businesses, charities, teams, and human beings who actively try to make a positive difference in whichever community they find themselves. Be inspired, be hopeful, but most of all, be entertained. With a smile and a song, just to see you smile, put on a happy face, or my personal favorite from Buddy the Elf, I just love smiling. Smiling is my favorite. There are plenty of lyrics, movie lines, and book quotes which mention smiles. It is one of the most natural things we do as human beings. Well, I honestly could not think of a better or more fitting organization, club, dynamic duo to have here than Smile Mass, because I'm smiling ear to ear that it's almost difficult for me to get out words right now, but that's a good thing. I'm joined by Todd and Lotte. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us. We much appreciate it.
And I like to say it's Lotte and Todd, not
Okay.
Todd and Lotte.
Okay.
Because without Lotte, there's no Todd. So that's how we're going to roll with it.
Aye, Captain. Aye, Bookworm Captain Todd. I got that. Lotte and Todd. Lotte and Toddy. Smile Mass. Well, Lotte, this is your baby in more ways than one. So would you explain to everyone what your organization is all about?
Sure. First off, I want to thank you guys for having us. It's such a privilege. Smile Mass is, in fact, my baby, my idea, and it sort of evolves as my child gets older. I'm a proud mother of 2 children, and my oldest son was born premature with fluid on the brain, who has put him in a position where he's considered in terms of the state medically complex, physically disabled, and neurologically, developmentally delayed. It's a lot of words. For me, he is my son. Obviously, there is nothing none of us wouldn't do for our children, and he's no different. He is just going to need support for the rest of his life, and this is sort of why Smile Mass was born. When he was a little boy, his sister was barely 2 years behind him, and I also had my nephew for many, many years. So in so many ways, I had 3 little children under the age of 5, and, you know, like any other child, they want to go to the playground, but most playgrounds weren't accessible or almost impossible to get to with strollers, never mind a wheelchair. And when I went and sort of scooped around, what's the rules and regulations? There are certainly a lot of rules and regulations, and I think most towns want to do the right thing. And I know for a fact it doesn't cost more to build something accessible versus not. I think the biggest obstacle most towns have, they really don't know how. And, you know, they should probably talk to parents like me, and we could help them, but it's just not the way the state does it.
Right.
So my whole life, I've sort of been a doer instead of sort of sit in the right lane and go,
Yeah.
ugh, I wish things would change.
Yeah.
I look at the bigger picture and I change them, and that's how Smile Mass was born. We built this first of its kind universal design playground in Sudbury, and I really just wanted a swing for the playground, and because then at least I could take everybody. And so I went to my Park and Rec and I asked them if we could buy a swing. Would they allow me to just put it up on the playground, on the public playground? And I think they thought I had like 100 heads.
Yeah.
And they were like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I can't get to the playground, but if I buy it, you can just hang it up, and then everybody could be happy." And my Park and Rec director said, "All right, I'll have to check if that's even legal." And now I already knew the rules. It was either me doing it or they would have to do it. But, I thought I would play the nice card. And luckily, about 2 or 3 weeks later, we were standing at the pool. I was getting everybody ready to go swimming. It was summertime, just like now. And the phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's Park and Rec. And he said, "Lotte, I have this great opportunity. We can actually write a grant, and we can get a whole playground. Are you in?" And I standing there with 3 little kids, everybody's jumping, hopping, and the wheelchair, and I was like, "Sure, count me in.
Yeah, where do I sign?
I'll swing back later, and I'll pick up the grant." And I remember coming home vividly, after the pool, everybody's tired, and I said to my husband, "I'm writing a grant," and he said, "Do you know what you're doing with a grant?" I go, "I have no idea, but I think we'll figure it out." Yeah. And we did, and writing that grant is no picnic. So I quickly realized I needed to hone in a lot of my smart friends. And I'm lucky. I'm surrounded by extremely smart people. So quickly somebody built a website, somebody, were good at designing flyers, and we huddled in people, we got volunteers, and the first of its kind universal design playground was built in Sudbury, and late Mayor Menino actually sort of somehow got whiffed of this, and we got an honorary mention, and I have this beautiful plaque from him saying I was a good citizen. I don't ever consider my a good citizen. I think what we created is the new normal. But everybody on my team was adamant about us having a name, and I said, "What's the big deal? Like, does it matter? It has a name." And everybody was like, "It does matter." So I trucked out to all our little preschools, and I said, "If you're on a playground, what does it make you feel like?" And everybody said, "Smile." So we created the word smile. And then I obviously took it to the next level, because that's kind of how I am. And I said, how can I make all these letters stand for something really meaningful that actually shines the light on all our kids who are born into this world with disability, and make them stand out. So the letter SMILE actually stands for Small Miracles in Life Exist. And it's really all our little children that are born into this beautiful world that is not set up for them to exist. And families scrambling, trying to do what's considered normal. And I said, let's build Smile Mass and call it Small Miracles in Life Exist. So that's really how we came about. But I think today Smile Mass is so much more than a playground. We have supported hundreds of towns how to do a playground. One of our full members on my team, when we built the first, created this beautiful business plan, digital, and we have shared it with so many towns who wanted to do the same. We have been directly supportive of 7 other playgrounds in the Metro West area. And obviously, when we get the request to do so, we will. But I do want to say that our target at this point is so much greater than the playgrounds. It will never go away. And I will always stand up and explain why a playground needs to be universal design. And the universal design really just means that anybody on a playground can get from the highest to the lowest point, with or without a wheelchair, create an equal access and equity that we all deserve, no matter who we are, and no matter what we stand for.
You, Lotte, are magical. First of all, you're the mama bear, so you're the protector, you're the carer, everything like that. But you're so much more. You are a mover and shaker and doer and changer, and this is really such a treat to have your power lighting up this whole studio right now.
If I can add
Yes,
something,
Todd,
and
I wish you would.
it continues on the the Applaud Lottie tour. Would you like that? Because it's almost a rhyme.
Applaudie.
Applaudie, right?
I just made a rhyme, doesn't matter that.
I've only been with Smile Mass since the beginning of July.
Yeah.
And if I can go back one quick step, I've authored a whole bunch of books, and one of the books I worked on was about the playground with Lottie's son Nicholas and Lottie, and that was a few years ago, and we stayed connected, but I wasn't a part of the organization. And in July, just kind of by small miracles existing in life,
Sweet serendipity.
we connected to talk about doing a newsletter together, and long story short, I came on board full time, which I'm thrilled for. But the thing that I've noticed more than anything, this is not a job for Lottie. It's not a project.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle. So when she comes up against an obstacle, and let's say an obstacle is a playground that doesn't have a swing, or an obstacle is COVID, she does not accept no for an answer because it's not a job, it's her child.
Yeah.
And more times than I can count in the last couple months, without boasting about that, that's who she is. So the things we do are for Nicholas and for the thousands of Nicholases out there whose parents may be in a similar position but don't have the power to do what Lottie and Smile Mass does. So for me, it's a job, it's a dream come true, but to be associated with an organization that lives, sleeps, and breathes disability awareness and inclusion, I wake up every morning excited to be part of it. So that's my 2 cents on Lottie, and I know this isn't about making her seem like the best thing since sliced bread, but it's
you
the
are.
reason that Smile Mass works like it does.
I would like to say that I think you are the best thing since scooped ice cream.
Oh, God.
Because, I mean, that's sweeter and, I mean, it's a lot tastier than just sliced bread.
That's true.
More of an
That's true.
indulgence and a much tastier treat. And speaking of treats, it's such a treat to have both of you sitting here in the studio with me. And I know, again, like I always say in my situation, I'm one of the quote-unquote lucky ones. The fact that my injury, it took a lot for me, and I had to work my high knee and head and heart off to get back to, like, gain back what I had lost. But I've become so much more aware of anything and everything disability related. Like, when I'm at a playground, too, or when I'm just out in the supermarket or at a store, I always find myself making sure that if there's a carriage in the way, I push it out of the way, because what if a wheelchair is coming by? What if someone who is using a walker or has a cane or who is visually impaired or anything like that? And knowledge really is power, and what you and Smile Mass as a whole are doing, it's not just power, but it's a whole new opportunity and world and heartbeat and hope for
But
futures.
I think one of the things that we're good at Smile Mass is pivot. I think extremely fast, sometimes probably too fast. But I think we're good at pivot, and I think I have an amazing team behind me, because I can think of all these things and come up with all these things, but there need to be people in the background. So it's just not me. So I may be the face, I may be the idealist, but it doesn't mean I make everything right, and I am far from perfect. But I believe in one thing. I believe that we all have a right to live a full life of inclusion, prosperity, my children's wishes for them are no different than anybody else. One of my children are just developmentally
Yeah.
different.
Different.
So my perspective or hopes and dreams for him are still admirable
Yeah.
and still very real.
Yeah.
They are just set with different expectations. You know, he will never drive a car. I don't have to worry about where he is on a
Yeah.
Saturday
Yeah.
night. He will never smoke and drink because, no, logically, he's never going to be in a position where he would need to know whether
Right.
this is a good choice or bad choice.
Right.
He is for the rest of his life going to need what I call a sidekick.
Yeah.
He's always going to have an aide with him, whether it's me or family or a hired aide,
Yeah.
because he wouldn't be able to get out of bed
Right.
without. But so my expectations for him and admirations for him are very different than my daughter.
Right.
My daughter has expectations, and there are real, you know, things that I expect from her. In return, she will get an education, and
Yeah.
she will get to live a full life. And I'm always gonna be her mother. And when times are tough, because no matter who we are, we're all gonna be faced with a sense of diversity.
Yeah.
It just looks different for
Yeah.
everybody, and some people out there have it a lot worse than I have
Yeah.
it in my house, but it doesn't change my diversity. And I think that's where we as human beings needs to be a little bit more compassionate and just take
Yeah.
a breath. Because sometimes if somebody cuts you off in traffic, or maybe they ran in front of you at Dunkin' Donuts, got
Yeah.
their coffee, I know it's stressful, and I know that sometimes we all sort of need to be reminded that maybe that person didn't start out the day well.
Right.
Maybe she walked out the door with an argument or got a bad information. Maybe she just got laid off.
Yeah.
Like, nobody really knows what happens
Yeah.
to somebody else. So, you know, one of the things I thrive on in my team is always sort of saying, what did we do well today?
Yeah.
Right? And what was your oof? What was that little extra you did
Yeah.
for somebody to make them smile, make them
Yeah.
feel special? And that is really the one thing we can do every day, all of us, whether it's Smile Mass or not. But that's what can set us apart, you know? Like, I sort of have, like, secretly 5 little things. I have to make somebody smile in a supermarket
Yeah.
or somewhere public. It's just like, I've done that for years,
Yeah.
like, sort of like just, you know,
You're
I
the
sort of
little
like,
jokester.
it's like my own little thing that I do, right? And like
It's like your magic
it's
your
like
superpower.
it just makes me feel good. Like,
Yeah.
and I always say, you know, I have to do one good thing for somebody, whether
Yeah.
opening a door. Sometimes I go through a drive-through and I go, can I just pay for the one behind me?
Yeah.
And they look at me with 10 heads, but it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And you know, one time I actually did this in Sudbury, or it was in Marlborough. I paid somebody's tab behind, and they had all these coffees and
Yeah.
donuts, and I was like expecting $2.50, and I was like, oh, okay, here you go,
Well,
like
okay,
it's fine,
there
right?
you go.
But the
Yeah.
funny thing was, about a half an hour later, I get a text, and she goes, "Oh my God, Lotte, thank you so much. I can't believe you did that." And you know, I was just paying it forward.
Yeah.
But this was a very, very dear friend of mine.
Oh my goodness.
Who is very well off,
Yeah.
who could totally do it. And she goes, "But you inspired me." So she goes, "So I paid for the other car behind me."
She had to
and
pay
she
a
goes,
forward train going
exactly.
chugga
And
choo
she
choo.
said she left, and she said she came up, and she goes, "This is incredible because somebody already on the speaker said, I'm going to pay the next one." So it was, like she said, it's just magic knowing
Chugga
you.
chugga
Right?
choo
So for
choo.
me, I was like, this is incredible,
Yeah.
right? Because it's the little things in life.
little
We
things.
all, I'm not happy all the time. I
Yeah.
want to say I am happy all the time, but I have days where
Preach. Yeah.
life
Preach,
is hard,
Peach.
it's heavy.
Preach, Peach.
But you know, and I like running.
Yeah.
So when that happens, I put my sneakers on and
Yeah.
I run. I don't really run anymore.
That's not
It's
true.
it's I pretend to run, but you know, like,
Hey, one foot in front
but
of the
I'm
other.
doing it, but it clears my mind.
Yeah.
And I think if I can give anything to anybody, it's hard. Life is hard.
Yeah.
And we have a choice every day when we wake up. Am I going to smile? Am I going to be sad? I always choose smile because it's just a lot easier.
Yeah.
And somebody told me once that if you just smile, you get less wrinkles.
Yes.
So I'm in a process of just smiling all the time because I have no time for more wrinkles.
And laughing burns more calories.
Yes,
than,
exactly. So, yeah.
crying. So
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yes,
Good
we're
to know.
the smiling, chuckling, getting fit and trim, dynamic tremendous trio we got here in the studio.
Yeah.
I want you to ask about.
So Lottie, I know it's Smile Mass, as I've already learned in our studio chit chat here, is it's so much more than playgrounds. What are some of the other initiatives or things in the batter's box for Smile
Thanks for
Mass?
saying that. And I do think, yes, we are so much more than playgrounds. Again, we're all about inclusion. And so I look at spaces. I love to travel myself. And I go, wait, I can't get there with a wheelchair.
Right.
Once you weigh much more than 50 pounds, almost anything outside of your home becomes an obstacle if the curb cut is not there, if the doors are not wide enough, if there's stairs, etc. So our next initiative after the playground was really the beaches. We live in a beautiful region where we have some of the most beautiful beaches, and we have a very long summer.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few free things left in life to go to the beach. So it should be accessible to all, right? Because the funny thing with disability is it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor.
Yeah,
It just hits you, and it's one of those clubs. You become a member, and chances that you ever become an unmember are slim to none. And it's just one day you wake up and you're a member. It's not like you chose. You actually, it's the one club you don't sign a liability form.
Yeah.
There are no forms. All of a sudden you get all these forms because you're part of it. But they're forms for a lot of different things.
You do not want to be initiated into that club.
No,
you don't
exactly.
choose to be
We
initiated.
don't choose to it, exactly.
Right,
I think
right.
families are just there, and then for many families, it's they wake up, right? Something happened, they wake up, and they're there, and they go, now what? So we focused on the beaches, and we wanted to provide beach wheelchairs, not just to get you on the sand. We actually wanted the full experience, because I knew when I was going to the beach, I really couldn't have my son down there if it was too hot, if I couldn't get him in the water, and then he would want to go home, and then I would have 3 little kids home, crazy and not tired. So I wanted to stay there the full day with buckets and play and whatever. So the beach wheelchairs we chose are a beach wheelchair with 3 wheels. It looks really cool. It sort of looks like...
It's like a beach tricycle.
It's like a beach... It looks like a lounge chair. It has also 3 different positions, so you can almost lay down in it. You can sort of sit up in it. So when you sit for a long time, you can sort of, just like we do, we readjust ourselves, and you can do that. And you can also pull it from the hard surface. It rolls right over the sand. It has a 5-point harness, a lap belt. There's even a belt for the feet if you need that. And then you can roll it right into the water, and it will actually float. So it's a really, really beautiful chair, and it's comfortable. Where some of the old-fashioned PVC, they're certainly nice. They're a little bit higher. So for many elderly people, it's easier to get into and transition into. But then you're sitting way up high, and everybody's on the ground, so there's no communication, where the other one is sort of low enough with a beach chair. So you're just together, and that's what I'm all about. I'm all about being together with friends and family, because ultimately, that's who we are. We came with family and friends, and we're going to go with family and friends, right? So
ain't that the truth? You
want to be with that. So we did the beach wheelchairs. Today we've donated over 180 beach wheelchairs throughout New England, actually, which is really, really, really cool. We started on the Cape, and today the Cape has like 78 some odd beach wheelchairs on local beaches. And again, we choose the local beaches and ponds because we want local families to be able to go. And we have taken on a handful of them that were doing over the bath houses. I would go and talk to them with their, park and recreation building inspector, and help them make family restrooms that actually are working for somebody who's wheelchair bound, who needs support, who can't get up and walk. And So we have actually donated probably about 10 adult changing tables by now.
Wow.
A couple of places we've done some of the beach mats, but a lot of the towns, the interesting thing is we get to educate them how simple
Right.
it is, the little things they need to do.
That music means one thing. It's time for Five for Good. And Five for Good tonight, making sure that families don't miss out on vacation just because of the kind of house they need.
An amazing nonprofit group just reached a really big milestone in their effort to do just that. Smile Mass is the name of their nonprofit. They just finished renovating this vacation home in Truro. Now, this house is specially designed for families with disabilities so that everybody can enjoy the beach together no matter what. They're even providing special wheelchairs that can go onto the sand. Smile Mass will celebrate the house this weekend with a ribbon cutting. Lotte, my friend, she's wonderful. She's behind Smile Mass. That's her right there with her son, Nicholas. And this whole thing, Smile Mass, is dedicated just to help families with someone with disabilities create happy memories through vacations and recreation experiences. She's an
Amen.
amazing lady.
Wow,
and this is just the next step in
Yeah.
an incredible
Yeah.
opportunity for people
Yeah.
who couldn't go to the beach.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she's just
You
incredible.
know, it's funny, you don't think about wheelchairs on the
Yes,
beach, but
right.
obviously that's an issue. So
Yes.
that's great.
Yeah,
That's
it
wonderful.
is wonderful.
So it has been an honor and a privilege, and I get phone calls from Park and Rec all the time. I have to go to Truro because they called me and they said, we have a couple of beach houses, bathrooms,
Along the
restrooms we're
National
going to do
Seashore,
over.
too, yeah.
And they were like, can you come down before we spend all that money?
Yeah.
So, it's very sad. I have to go all the way to Truro, in the fall. It's like, I don't even know what to do.
Oh,
Like, it's
goodness
beautiful
gracious.
down there, right?
And you won't have to deal with the
the
Cape
traffic
Cape
and-
invaders
yeah, I
is how
know,
I
so-
refer to them.
So, I spend time doing stuff like that because it's bigger than me and Nicholas, right? Like this bigger, and if we can change, for beachgoers a little bit here and there,
Yeah.
and I think over the years, Smile Mass has been around for 14 years now. What I love most in the summertime is people will be in the vineyard and then they would take a selfie with a sign saying this beach was made more successful by Smile Mass. So all summer long, I get from like friends and family or somebody who knows somebody, they go, look what I saw,
that makes
and
me
it's
so
just
happy.
such a privilege. Or somebody will take a private video going, I was videoing, they were using your chair. And I'm going, all right, it's not my chair.
Yeah.
But the neat thing is, we have placed beach wheelchairs over the last 10 years. So it's not like we do 100 a year, right? We do drippings, right? And it's all based on our ability to raise money. But it's created such an impact that I know at one point there was a New York team that was saying beach stays fall. It's sort of our slogan. We always says beach stays fall. And they put an S at the end. But the funny thing was it picked everything up. And I know we're in the Boston region, but the New York Yankees picked it up and put Smile Mass on the big bundle drum, when they did their opening, because we had done so many beach wheelchairs. And I was laughing because the poor guy that is the manager, or back then was the manager, signed the Smile Mass T-shirt that we have framed.
Yeah.
And he got so many boos and whatever. And he goes, I know we don't love Boston, but
Put
this
away
group is
put
really
away
cool.
that.
And he said, this group.
Put away the rivalry just for this.
He was saying,
Yeah.
watch Smile Mass. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, I don't take myself seriously, right? But I always get like, oh my God, how did they pick this up?
Yeah.
So today, we help with we help with the playgrounds when needed. We do the beach wheelchairs, and we always donate some every year. I believe we did 5 this year. We do up to 20. So it sort of
love
depends,
that.
like up and down. And then we have an extensive loaner program that families can borrow adapted equipment for free. My goal with that was really that we couldn't keep up with the demands on the beaches. And then family would rent houses where there weren't private beaches.
Right.
So then they wouldn't have it. So if they could borrow a beach wheelchair, they could just go to any beach and they weren't at the mercy of Park and Rec
Right.
and closing the beach. They could just go down and have pizza on the beach. Again, being normal, like fitting in like everybody else would.
Yeah.
So they would pick it up, but then families would be like, oh my God, there's one step into this house I rented. Do you have a ramp?
Yeah.
And I said, well, find ramps.
Yeah.
So today our program is stacked with adapted ramps. Some of them can take 5 steps. Some of them can only take 1 step. We have a handful of different bathroom equipment. We have a Hoyer. We have strollers. And we have, of course, our beach wheelchairs and other little things that come in, bed rails, and and we just have it all stored and maintained, and it's really, most of it is maintained by wonderful volunteers we have that come in and tweak it. I call them, I go, I have some flat tires and this and that and the other, but so it's been such a privilege to sort of grow with the need. Like we come out with an idea, but then the need for it has been extraordinary. Everywhere, everything we touched, I always knew there was a need. But people are coming out of woodworks, and in the beginning,
the ripple effect.
It's the ripple effect, and I
Yeah.
feel like in the beginning, I didn't want to put anybody out, so I would drop off all this equipment. But we just got so big, and I didn't have time. So then we had volunteers do it, but they came home crying to me, going, "This woman came out and gave me cookies because I gave her a wheelchair." And so it was just extra. And I was like, "Oh my God!" Like like a light bulb went on, and I was like, we need volunteers to do this because I know how people feel. I don't, right? So now today we have a whole volunteer group that Todd actually is overseeing and they're beginning to rattle to go out and do all these things. And one of the things we want to utilize for the volunteers is I'm putting a big campaign together for our next big project that I'll tell you about that I think you'll be super, super excited about. But we want like
Sneak
a big capital campaign that goes out as a hand-delivered campaign, so we don't go in the box of a file. And I think our volunteers would love to do that, right? Like, of course, there's going to be heavy lifting, and that's going to be me.
Sign
picking
me
up
up,
the
Buttercup.
phone. Okay, you got it. I'll sign you up.
Yep,
but
there we
I
go.
think that is what sets us apart, right? Like, I try to utilize everything we can to keep the cost down and make it better.
And that personal touch, that humanity that's embedded in your organization too. It's not lost in the shuffle like so many things are these days.
Yeah, I think one of the things that set us apart, I am not money driven. I should be, but I'm not. I am result driven, and I'm a firm believer. If we build it, people will come.
Yeah.
And when we build it, the money will follow. Like, we don't have to chase the money. We have to do the right thing, and the money will follow, because most people are very generous and kind-hearted, but they sometimes just need to be reminded that these things are there. And as a nonprofit, there are a million nonprofit, and there's not a bad nonprofit, right? They all were created because of a need. So I don't ever look at any other nonprofit and feel we're a competition. We're not. We're merely, building on each other, helping each other. And I think in this world, nonprofit is a business, but and I obviously look at it as a business. I still have to balance all my numbers and, what can we do? But if I'm not on target financially, I clearly need to find more donors. So I need to get out of bed earlier, right? And so that's sort of my process and the way I do things.
You're like the nonprofit Field of Dreams. If we build it, they will come. That's right when I thought of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, make that reference, Raw Dog. I said to myself, make that reference.
I think one of the things I keep hearing now is that from like the state or from other, I always call, we got to play with the big boys, right? And we're right at the brim where all of a sudden we are still a little nonprofit, but we're sort of
tiny but mighty.
We are sort of we're sort of at the crossroads of we either stay there or we play with the big boys. And playing with the big boys is a whole different ball of wax. And so it's the decision of how much do we want to play, like, where is our line? And I am very dedicated and ethical to that. Every penny we bring in right now is going to programs, and it's going to changing the world for the better. I always feel like when I do something that if we can make the world a little bit better for tomorrow, it's better. And so our biggest program that we are embedding right now is what we refer to as Club Smile Mass, as you can see on Todd's shirt.
Yeah.
So, and the reason it's a club is because we wanted to give hope to the families and do something normal. I don't want my son for the rest of his life to go to therapy and do all this.
Right.
Why can't he just go to a club that has all the right tools
Yeah.
and all the right, things that he needs? So I said, why don't we just create a club? And I know from DDS and from, the state,
Right.
like they have all these adapted terms to it,
Programs
right?
and,
And programs. I say we have a club because if you love golf, you're going to join the golf clubs, right? My son loves to bike. He loves music. He loves his friends.
Yeah.
But they need a club they belong to, so we're going to build it, right? And I am a firm believer what we're building right now is going to be the future of how families want to see their kids with disabilities play after school and a place where they can grow old. And that is literally in so many words what we're building, but it's created for each individual. And I think once we build this, there are going to be a lot of different clubs with a lot of different themes or focuses. Our club has 5 criteria, and I'm very firm on that. It's built on movement because movement stimulates the frontal lobe of the brain. We don't need to be doctors to know that. It is a proven fact. So you can look it up. When you move, when you are happy, when you are out and about, you stimulate the front lobe of the brain that stimulates communication, happiness, voluntary movement, focus,
Connectivity.
concentration, and continued learning.
Yes.
Something we all need to do for the rest of our life. This is why every doctor says, get to the gym, go and do that. If you're physically, neurologically, and medically disabled, what you hear from the doctors is going, oh, Nicholas, you're so lucky your mom is your mom.
Yeah.
She takes good care of you. Nobody cares if he's on a bike. Nobody cares if he goes to the gym. But guess what? I care.
Yeah.
Because I need him to be as independent as possible.
Amen.
There's very little things this kid can control, but the few things he can, he so should, because that provides confidence. It provides happiness. It provides you inclusion.
Yeah.
It makes you feel whole. And no matter who we are, whether we are poor or rich, we all need to be needed. And so doesn't he, right? So that's why we're building this. The Club Smile Mass is built on everybody has to bike or hike or walk. They have to go to the gym. They have to go swimming. They have to do something educational every day, whether it's music therapy, read a book, count. And there's so many ways
Art,
of doing
anything,
it. Art, And then they have to have a job. Because that's what we all do. My daughter is going to have a job one day, right?
Yeah.
Like, so why shouldn't my son, right? So I understand it looks different, and I know it sounds really ordained, but I have no interest in my son going to a transfer station and sit and fiddle through plastic and cans and sort it. I don't think that's super meaningful.
Right.
Now, is it good for the environment? Absolutely. And is it good for some people?
Yeah.
Yes. But I think my son can do so much more. So when he graduated and turned 22, I chose for him to do a program called Self-Directed, and I've created him a whole schedule. And yes, there is OT in there, and there is some PT in there, and there is certainly all his 24 specialists are all in there because we still need to see them.
Yeah.
They don't go away. But he goes to the gym 5 days a week.
Yeah.
He swims 3 days a week. He goes to social group with his friends.
Incredible.
He goes to a restaurant and helps them roll silverware, right? He thinks he's a rock star. I'm not quite sure that we really are helping the restaurant. But you know what? They love it just as much as him.
Exactly.
And then he's been able to go back to his old school, and he goes and volunteers. Now, again, is it really helpful for the school? Maybe not, but it's compassionate. And that is
and
what life is all
and
about.
it's teaching these children, these students about inclusivity and being kind, even just with a simple smile to another, a passerby whom you haven't even met yet. And Lottie, I I've had the like goosebumps our whole conversation here
So I want to tell you though a little bit before. With Club Smile
Yes.
Mass, right now we run it out of a local gym and we do swim at another local place. And it's just not sustainable. We're growing faster than I know how to count to 3.
Yeah.
And you know, we are working under the scrutiny of other clubs
Right.
who already have scheduled times for the rooms that
Right.
we're using, which is admirable that we
Yeah.
can. So kudos to LA Fitness for letting us be where we are. But we can't grow anymore. So it's time for us to grow up, play with the big boys, and get our own space. So there is a space in Framingham that we have our eye on. It's 30 plus acres, and there is also some land in Sudbury. So the goal is to take the house that's currently there, make it interim clubhouse. We would be able to do our own gym there, have a clubhouse where we can have a hopefully radio station, and you can come and teach us how to do all this,
Oh
because
my God. Yes, please.
feel like half of our kids, even more, are nonverbal, but everybody has something to say.
Sign me up,
And it's-
Buttercup.
Our job to create that
Yeah.
platform.
And they all have that creativity
Yes.
and that creative light and spark within them too.
And when I look at all this, this is where job comes in,
Yeah.
right? Some of them can be cameramen, right?
Yeah.
Some of them can sit
Could
down and
operate
figure
the
out
soundboard and anything.
who should we interview, right?
Yeah.
So the club will then also have trails and accessible trails. So
Mm.
that's where they would bike. Some of the kids that we took with us to the Falmouth Road Race need to learn to run the 7 mile. If we have our own trails, we go out and train every day. Guess what? Next year we show up, they can all do it,
That's
right?
incredible.
But we need the right platform.
Yeah.
But this is so much more than just our kids, because this provides hope. It provides a solstice. It provides happiness. It provides peace of mind for our families.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing that keeps me up at night, is like, who is going to do what I do when I am no longer here for
Yeah.
Nicholas? And any family out there raising a kid with disabilities, what keeps us all up at
Yeah.
night if we're not up with machines
Yeah.
or oxygen or medicine or changing a
Right.
diaper? We are up because our heads are spinning. How am I absolutely going to afford to run this
Right.
kid? Because it is like having a kid at college for life.
Yeah.
And where am I going to do it? And if I'm not here,
Right.
how am I going to do it? The states are offering a lot of various programs, and those programs are good fit for everyone. And I do think they're on track, but the state works a lot slower than we do at
Yeah.
Smile Mass,
Yeah.
right? So we all know that in every town they have group homes here and there.
Yeah.
And they're sort of planted within a community, so the thought process is right? We are not institutionalized, we are getting them
Right.
out. So the process is right. The bad thing is now they're in a community, in a neighborhood. So even if the neighborhood is having a cookout, are they really knocking the door and go,
Right.
you want to come to a cookout? Chances no. Number two, the problem is that when you are there, is that you need transportation to go somewhere.
Yeah.
If everybody doesn't want to go, the whole group don't go.
Right.
Because there's only one nurse there. So if one stays back,
Yeah.
everybody stays back.
Yeah.
Because the nurse can't be in two places.
Right.
And so there's so many rules and regulations. If we have it in one place, we allow the parents to come there. You don't ever age out, so you can come after school, slowly integrate, and with a little bit of luck, we talk to our local schools, have them come over there and do job skills,
Oh, I
right?
love that.
Like let's create the real community.
Yeah.
Let's help the parents set their kids up for success.
Yeah.
And that is really what we're building. So I'm super, super stoked. We have already gotten 70 plus clients in that we
Oh
see
my
weekly.
goodness.
We have a wait list, and we see
Yeah.
over 40 clients that are just too far away or too medically
Mm-hmm.
fragile to come to us. And that's never going to change. I
Right.
think we built this. We're going to be at 500 people capacity in a blink of an
Wow.
eye, and not even knowing like how to
Yeah.
what to do with the rest.
Yeah.
So I think what we are creating is the new magic, and I believe this is the future of what these kids should have. Like, it's not their fault they're there. Like the world just
Yeah.
gave them a bad egg, right? So we're gonna help them create
Hallelujah.
a world, right? That belongs,
Hallelujah.
right?
Oh
and
my
and they're
goodness.
still part of the community,
Yeah.
but they're not always in the community, right?
Right.
Because it's not always the right fit.
Right.
It's not always the right fit for everybody. Life is fast.
And they're not at the mercy of the community, and they don't have to wait and just like sit and wait and wishing type of a deal.
They shouldn't be at home.
No.
They should be at a community.
Yeah.
They should be in a place where they belong.
And one of the
Amen.
things that
Yes.
Lotte talks about is how important it is for Nicholas and for others like him
Yeah.
to have friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, they're not invited to sleepover parties.
Right.
Okay? They're not
Yeah.
invited to birthday parties. So this is a club where like-minded people
Yeah.
can hang with each other.
I love that.
You know, it's so forward-thinking and so exciting. I use the word endorphin,
Yeah.
okay? And it comes into play when we see something happy like this. The goosebumps is endorphins.
Yeah.
Additionally, when people volunteer, when people give, it's their way of feeling good. And so I think that's why a lot of what we do is so powerful. The volunteers don't see it as a chore. They do it as a way to make themselves feel
Yeah.
good and feel part of it. One of the opportunities that the volunteers have is to deliver the beach wheelchairs.
Yeah.
And when we put out a request,
Put out the call. Right.
yeah, put out the call, we need something delivered from Sudbury to Cape Cod, people come running forward to do it. So
love
it's,
that.
you know, it's everything that we seem to do is a winning recipe.
Yeah.
One of the things that Smile Mass does as well, and I think it's very important, is we provide support not only to the disabled client, but to the family.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, I'm associated with Smile Mass, but I don't have a disabled
Right.
family member.
Right.
I can go home after I spend the afternoon with Nicholas.
Yeah.
Lotte can't.
Right.
Lotte, you know, the people who have a disabled family member, this is their life. And I would assume that there's some anxiety and
Yeah.
depression and fear that goes along with it.
Of course.
Part of Smile Mass's program is to provide support for the entire family.
Family.
And, you know, it's just, it's amazing to be a part of.
That's
I can tell you one of the biggest requests from our families. It's really funny. They were all saying to me, can we have a space, like a quiet space for
Yeah.
families? Like for parents to just go
yeah.
and just sit and think.
Yeah.
But they didn't want it the same place as a workspace.
Right.
They wanted like two separate.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm sure we can make it
Yeah.
happen, right? Like I'm one of these, like, if you can think it, let's make it,
Yeah.
right? And I think one of the biggest things that I see with this, and I already see it now, and I hear it from our parents, right, is the joy that their kids are getting from it. Right now, we do a social group
Yeah.
at a restaurant, but the kids talk about it
Yeah.
all week, how amazing it is. I mean, the girls, a couple of weeks ago, this is the funny thing, I came in, so our two coaches, our two male young men, one is 24 and one is 28, I believe, and they're very well trained. They're very kind and very, but the girls love them,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
More than anything.
Yeah.
And they will actually say to me, we love swimming with you, Lotte, but we love the boys, right?
Of course.
And they were talking at this social group, and one of the girls says to the other ones, well, what's your type? And I almost fell off my chair because it was so after they were just talking about, I think they had the American Girl dolls. Like they were just
Yeah.
talking about what clothes. And now all of a sudden goes, well, if you should have a man, what's your type? And I was
Yeah.
like, okay. Like,
Yeah.
and one of the girls, so cute, in a wheelchair with little round glasses, and she goes, I don't know, I don't have a type, I'm blind, so who cares? And I just thought, oh my God, why
oh
couldn't
my
we all
goodness.
just be like that?
Yes.
Like just, and everybody laughed, going, that's a good idea, I don't have a type
Yeah.
either. And they just all agreed, they didn't have a type, they just wanted a boyfriend, right? So
Oh
then
my
they were
God, I
counting
love
how many
that.
boys, and there were only 2 boys, there were only Nicholas and Jordan.
Yeah.
And there were 5 girls, so they were like, well, I guess
How are
we
we
could
gonna do this?
She
We'll
had a
share.
boyfriend, and they were like, all right, we'll just
Sharing
share.
is caring.
And so I just think, and you know, and my son, who's nonverbal, just clapped. Like he
Yeah.
thought this was really cool, right? And And then the conversation went on to, well, who is eating French fries today or what? Like it was sort of like
Yeah.
just
Matter of
last
fact.
around, matter of
Yeah.
fact, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I always, one of my biggest joys is really working with this population because
Yeah.
they make life very simple. It's all
Yes.
black and white. And
Yeah.
I think if all of us can take anything away from this, sometimes it's not that bad. It's just black and white. It seems like right now it's really bad, but if you can just look at the bigger picture or open the
Amen.
door, go out, walk around your house, take a breath of fresh air. That
Amen.
argument you had, it wasn't
It
even
doesn't-
about the
it
argument.
doesn't
It was
mean
something else
anything.
that happened a
Yeah.
month ago. Let it go.
Amen.
Every hour you have now, every hour you chose to spend on something you didn't enjoy, you'll never get back. We can all make more money, but we'll never get time back. And that's why I feel like this community, we need this. These kids deserve to have a platform, a place, and time to enjoy life, just like you and
Amen.
I, even if they have no choice of what man they like. Right?
Well
So,
said, Lottie, Lady Lottie, I
Thank
should
you.
say. Oh my goodness, my heart is.
Can I add one more
Yes.
thing that's,
Yeah.
I don't have to watch
No,
for 34
no, you don't.
seconds, right?
No.
So music therapy is new to me,
Oh,
okay?
yes.
I'm new to the community, so I hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
And Lottie told me a story, but then I kind of witnessed it at our house too. At Falmouth, at the
Yeah.
beginning of the race,
Yeah.
they play the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah.
And so Lottie and Nicholas were a duo team, one of two duo teams we had in Falmouth. And Nicholas began looking at the flag and singing the national anthem.
Yeah.
Now, Lottie said he's nonverbal, so it doesn't sound like you and I might sing it.
Yeah.
Then I was able to witness it during music therapy class where it was done via Zoom, and Nicholas was at home. He sets up in front of the computer with a
Yeah.
drum set,
Yeah.
and the instructor starts with the national anthem, and Nicholas plays along with the national anthem and sings. And we're going to use the word endorphins. I was crying like a baby
Yeah.
because first of all, he was so filled with pride.
Yeah.
And second of all, he sang beautifully.
Yeah.
Once again, I'm going to say it didn't sound like you and I might sing, but it was a moment. It was beautiful. And the fact that, Lottie says it might not look the same as ours does,
Yeah.
but I'm going to say Nicholas's favorite song might be the
Oh, yeah.
national anthem.
it's definitely up there. It's
Yeah.
one of
I-
the top ones, yeah.
I love that so much, and I appreciate that so much. And he is America strong. You are Mama Bear strong, and I feel like we and the collective we of Club Smile Mass, we are all driven and we're shooting for the stars, reach for the stars, and even if you shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah. We
Yeah.
always shoot for the moon, right? Or
Amen.
reach large, right? Like,
Yeah.
because you will land, and there's not always a straight path,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't always know how we're going to get from A to
Right,
B,
but-
I can see the bigger picture. I know where we want to be. How to get there might be a little
Yeah.
off path,
Hey.
but I do think I have a big sign in my office, and it says, never take the road that was always travel.
Yeah.
Never be afraid of travel the less,
Yeah.
the less traveled road.
Yeah.
And I
Amen.
think when I look back at my life, I don't think I really have ever traveled the normal route.
Yeah.
I've always been on the offbeat. And a friend of mine once told me, if you are too far from the edge of the earth, you're taking off too much space in society.
Yeah.
I do not think I live on the edge of the earth. I definitely don't.
Can see it from where you are.
But I do think I have ideas, and I think for me, if they're not ideas, I don't understand why we're not like that in society. Because I feel like in general in society,
Yeah.
if we always turn around and pull up the weakest link,
Yeah.
whoever that is, we are gonna be stronger and better and more financially sane and straight for all of us.
Amen.
Like, you know, it's like education. All
Yeah.
of that is important. It's not for the few lucky. Educated, we should all be,
Yeah.
and to the capacity we can. And in society, whether you're disabled or not,
Yeah.
if you educate everybody and everybody learns to read and write to
Yeah.
the best of their capacity, and you always turn around and pull up a weaker link
Yeah.
behind you, no matter where you are, as a society, we will be the strongest nation.
Yeah.
We will be both neurologically, physically, and mentally stronger than anybody out there,
Amen.
because we're using our power within
Yeah.
to be a better nation.
I feel
So
like that's our,
that's sort
our
of what I
own
hope
inner magical superpower that we all have,
Yeah.
that we just, some haven't discovered inside them yet.
Yeah.
But
I feel lucky I have,
You-
right?
You
Like
did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nicholas made me better. Like I
Yeah.
don't know that I was always this kind and this compassionate,
Yeah.
but he put me in a place where
Yeah.
I had two choices, and that was either institutionalize him or help him change the world around him.
amen.